Well, hello. So I will just give everyone a little bit of time to get in. And join. So hello everybody. I can see that some people are starting to join. I do hope that the lighting isn't too bad. Yeah, I think I will do it like this. Make my phone have its light on so you actually can see what I'm doing. So, hello, welcome back. It's been a while. I first didn't think I would be able to film today, but I made it work and I'm really happy that I'm back stitching. So today I am stitching on my Epic Pokemon Generation 1. I am trying a new setup, and if this setup works, then it would be wonderful, because that means that I am able to just do a whole bunch of more filming, both live and non-live, while I stitch. That is something I have been wanting to get going for a good while, but I haven't had the best setup for doing it, and usually it would take me like half an hour just to get everything set up so I could start filming, and in the long run that just takes too much time. So I was surprised today that this setup only took me like 5, maybe 10 minutes with all the adjusting and so on. So, but I hope you all enjoy and we'll have a good time. Sorry if it's shaking a lot. This is a little big Q-snap, so the Lowry stand tends to wiggle a little bit if I suddenly hit it too hard, in a way. I usually sit with the Q-snap much further to my body, so I actually have the bottom of the Q-snap right on my belly, and that usually tends to keep it stable. So when I'm not doing that, it's shaking a little bit. So here's my bobbin box for my Pokemon. It's only Epic Pokemon that have its own bobbin box, and that is because I am using 3 strands of floss while stitching, and so I found that it was best to just not have these in the master set box. So, and then I have the rest in my master set, so. Is everything okay with the filming and stuff? I can see people joining, but I can't see if anyone has said anything or so. Please let me know if there is no sound or something like that. Need to mark what I stitched. So I am actually back to stitching my Epic Pokemon the way I park. So it's not like perfect all over. You can see some, I don't know, cross-country stitching-ish that you call it, down here and so on. But that's because that is stitching I did a long time ago. Because while I didn't like page by page parking on my Epic Pokemon, Hey Charlotte! Oh, thank you so much for letting me know. Yeah, I'm parking without a grid. So I didn't like to page by page park on my Epic Pokemon. So what I usually did, I took a color and I stitched everything in that color and just parked it where it was supposed to come next, and then stitched the other colors until I got my stitching down to where I had parked and could, like, I know I had parked in the correct spot, because when I jump along distances while stitching, I usually always tend to be one square off. But when I do it like I have done, I'm never one off, even when I park. So, but I'm back to page by page parking this. How I do my parking is, as I said, page by page. That means, yes, I mark my pattern where I have parked. I can try to, this is a free pattern, so I'm not so afraid to show. So what I usually do, I will mark off the stitching I have done, and then I just make a little line right underneath the symbol at the bottom of the block, and I know that that block is where I now parked this floss over here I just did. So yeah, when I park, I can show you the pattern while explaining. My page by page parking is, I do consider the whole page while stitching. And I will only do a stitch if I have done the stitches that is over. Usually I play by the 3 over rule. That means if I am to stitch this stitch going from here to here, I will have to have this stitch, and this stitch done first before doing this stitch. So the 3 over, the one right on top, and both on a diagonal to the right and left. You can see here I don't always follow the over 3 rule, but I will always have the stitching over done. Hey Heather! So you can see I don't do the stitch unless the stitches over are done, and I try not to make too long, what I'm gonna call it, like, I wouldn't do like, if I was to do this stitch, I wouldn't do the next one even if it was the same and I had the next stitch over, because these stitches would then be so squished together. So I try not to do that, but every rule has their exception, and I have a bunch of them while stitching, because in the end it comes down to what I want to do and what I feel like doing. And usually when I stitch page by page, it gets like a almost diagonal, as you can see. It's not a real diagonal, but with my epic Pokemon, I'm working the pages from the right to left, so my diagonals will be on the right side, and I tend to try and work on the stitches I find here first, and work my way down, and if I can't do down, then I will go to the right on the top. So it starts forming a diagonal. When I do stitching my other heights and stuff, where I have started on the top left corner as I usually do, then the diagonal will usually be on the left side and not the right side as it is here. So I hope you all have found some stitching and are just relaxing and enjoying and stitching along with me. I have really missed doing these live stitch with me's, because it's always a joy to stitch and talk with you. And now this would be the next stitch, but I haven't the ones over, so then I will just park the floss where it is. So I have found, oh, you're apple picking. Oh, that's I saw that on Instagram, Charlotte. It looks really nice. It's a very cute pattern. So I have found that my parking method, I tend to go slower if you only count each stitch I do, not by much. I think the difference is in 1 hour, if it's like not totally confetti heavy, I am about 15 stitches slower than if I did it not parking. But the thing is that in the long run, it actually pays off because I almost never do any mistakes. And that makes it so I don't have a lot of time frogging. So I think in the long run that it makes up for it. Plus, just stitching this way is more enjoyable for me. And with the fact that I'm doing the 3/over rule and so on, and only stitching from the top down, it makes it so each stitch looks nicer when I stitch. At least for me, it does look much nicer. I can point out every stitch that I don't have done in this method, because then some of the stitches are a little bit wonky and doesn't look right. So for me, this is much more enjoyable, and in the end, it's more worth it, I think. So, but we all need to find what suits us. This doesn't appear until pretty good jump, so I will just pin stitch this. So I hope you can see fine how I do the pin stitch. If you want to get more detailed explanation, I can do it, but I have done it a lot of times, so but if you want to know, just shout out and I will zoom in when I do a pin stitch and show it really close up how I do the pin stitch. Oh, Charlotte! From October 2018, just cross stitch. Oh, that's so nice stitching that for someone else. And as you can see, I am one of those put in place while stitching kind of girl. If not, it only ends up being a mess and too much for me to remember. So, marking and cleaning as I go. Don't need to look at the chart all evening, even though it's a free pattern. Let's see. Now I have worked my way so far down here, I have to go back to the top and fill in some stitches so I can do the rest of my stitches. So next up is the star symbol. It's 500. Here you can see how I do my bobbins. So I have some stickers where I draw the symbol and where I draw the number. Sometimes I will just draw the number right on the bobbin. And I usually, the cut lengths that I have cut up, I usually take around the hole in the top, so it's easier to find and when I'm gonna start stitching. And the way I thread my needle, I don't lick, I don't use one of the, I can't remember the name of right now, but the things for threading your needle. I just make a loop on my floss around my needle, pull it, and just push the floss. Needle threader, thank you, Heather. And just push the floss up while, if you need, wiggle the needle a little bit, and it's right on there, no problem. At least not for me. I have actually heard a few people trying my method of threading the needle, and they found that it was much faster and easier than they had done before. So always nice to just show how I do stuff, because maybe it can help someone. And if you're like me, then I really like to see everything when it comes to stitching. Like how you stitch, how you thread your needle, how you use your, if you use bobbin or floss bags, and how you organize, and so on, so on. That might sound crazy to some people, but I enjoy that. So I try at least a little bit to always show that myself. And now I will trail off a little bit, but still my rules for parking applies. But I'm doing it so that I need to jump over here to do a stitch with this color. So, and for not wasting too much floss, then I will just trail down as you see and do the stitches and come back, and then I will jump over. So, and yeah, I'm really frugal with my floss. So almost everything I do, as long as it doesn't affect the stitch I do, then I will do it so it saves floss. So almost everything I do with how I stitch and why I don't do regular parking, etc., is to save floss and make the stitches look nicer. And the only time it will not save floss, it's when I need to, if I had done it otherwise, the stitches wouldn't look as nice. That's the only time I'm not frugal. Oh, that's nice. I'm so glad that I could help you learn how to park, Charlotte. Oh yeah, I saw that you have done a lot of page finishes on your Literate Dragon. I saw that you have started to get his eyes done and his little nose. He's starting to look so good. That was the most fun part with my QS Hugger Ball, was when I got to the dragon and got just a little bit at a time, more and more of him coming out in the picture. So I will just open my soda, so hang on. I have slept for what, maybe 2 hours tonight, because first off, I woke up because I had a massive headache. So I had such a huge headache that it woke me up from sleeping. So I had to go and take some medicine. And I went down to bed, got about 30 minutes sleep, something like that. And then my son woke up and wouldn't go back to sleep in his own bed. I think he had a nightmare or something. Something has been bothering him lately. We think it's from kindergarten, or our kindergarten in Norway is a mix between kindergarten and daycare. So it's like both put into one. He has shown sign that telling us that someone is nice to him and stuff like that, and he doesn't want to go anymore to the kindergarten, and he usually loves that. So we have been talking with the personnel, and they know that there is a group of boys that isn't always nice to the other kids, and they think that can make my son not wanting to go to the kindergarten, and that can also be a reason why he is affected by his sleep and being angry at home and stuff like that. So he denied going back to sleep, so he went to sleep in my bed, or me and my husband's bed. He always lays down on my side with me. And I actually have like a huge round pillow in the middle of the bed to divide the bed, because my husband, in his sleep, sometimes I'm sure he is trying to kill me in his sleep, because he is all over the place. He usually can hit me and stuff like that. But of course, he doesn't know about it himself. He does it when he sleeps. But that's why I have that pillow in the middle of the bed, so it will not... so if he tries to hit me, he will hit the pillow instead. But the problem with Leo, my son, sleeping on my side of the bed is that he is like his father. So I think he managed to kick me in the head like 5 or 6 times in the night. And every time that would affect the headache I already had. And it was just horrible. And when they finally woke up and went to work and kindergarten, I went back to sleep, tried to sleep for a few more hours. I had hope for like just sleeping in until they got home or something. But then one of our neighbors are going to sell his house, so they are renovating their house. So there was a lot of banging and people talking and stuff like that. So I couldn't go back to sleep. So I have almost not slept at all. So I am going to need soda to get through this day. Yeah, elbows to your head. That pillow is one of the best thing that came out of my pregnancy. I'm one of those that had like a really bad pregnancy, and it was so bad that I had to have this like huge round pillow shaped like a U with very long arms from like sticking up, and I would like lay in the middle of the pillow with one feet around it, so I actually could sleep because my skeleton was hurting so much. My feet and yeah, I don't know the English term. So, except from Leo being the best thing coming out of that pregnancy, that pillow was one of them. Because from that moment, that pillow is standard in our bed, me and my husband's, because that pillow is protecting me in the night. And suddenly, for some strange reasons, I almost never wake up with a lot of bruises all over. So, love my pillow. And the way I stitch, where you can see I do have stitches like one direction, and then I come back and cross the stitches so it becomes a full cross. That is called the Danish method. And the method where you do one cross, one X at a time, like you complete one X, then go to the next one, and so on, that is called the English method. I had to search it up here the other day because there are so many people always talking about it and never knowing which is which. So this method is the Danish one, and the other is the English, which actually makes sense because since Norway is right beside Denmark, this is the method that everyone I know that stitch uses. And I think it has also to do with the hardanger, because that is, I don't know if it is from Norway, but hardanger is a place in Norway. So it might be possible that the hardanger stitching is from Norway. And basically the way you stitch is like you do stitches like one direction, but that is satin stitches and so on. But I think that maybe have affected the way the Danish method got invented. So I'm not sure, but for me it makes sense if it did. So, and as you can see with this method I do, sometimes you can get a real good chunk of stitches done without having to change your floss all the time. And if you really like think about what colors you do first of the ones you have available to you to stitch. You sometimes can get a whole lot of stitches done without having to change. Hello, Amanda. What exercise are you going to work out today? Or what muscle group? Oh, weight training. Good luck with your training. In a little while, I will, with my head today, I will probably forget to say it when you leave, so I'm just saying it now before you leave. I have actually been looking at starting to train myself. But I'm, with my chronic illness, I'm not allowed to train like whatever I want. And in a way, that is the best thing about my illness, is the fact that I am not allowed to do like weight training and stuff like that. I have to do training that are a lot easier on your body, that doesn't stress your body so much. A more slow kind of type exercise. So yoga, we have also something called Pilates. I have no clue what it's called in English. And hammock, which if you have followed me for a while, you remember I did some hammock training when I broke my toe. But it actually is a very good exercise, and if you know how to train with a hammock, it should be impossible to break your toe, but I managed to do that. Yep, that was my box with all my bobbins on the floor. Managed to slip it. That happens a lot of time with me when I'm not feeling too good, because my grip becomes really bad, and sometimes things just slips out of my hands. So next time I need a new floss, I need to look all over the floor and see if I can see it, see my symbol. But oh well. It's not the worst thing. It's not like it broke or something. It's not that big of a fall. And actually with these, I don't know if you can see that. When I do like 3 or more flosses when pin stitching, I actually make a little knot, as I did when starting. I made this little knot and made the loop on the back. But now I'm use that little knot when doing the pin stitch, just so the floss doesn't get very... sometimes some of the flosses will like vary in lengths, and I found if I do start my pin stitch with that knot, it usually doesn't become too bad with the lengths being of different, the floss being of different lengths. So plus I don't need to think, because the knot will stop my floss from going through, because sometimes I will pull it right through when doing the pin stitch. So what are you guys stitching today? I know Charlotte is stitching on her apple picking piece, but what are all you other doing? Like, you might not even stitch, but what do you do? Hey Chelsea, so nice to see you. Yeah, Epic Pokemon is being worked this month because the Pokemon Cross Stitcher group on Facebook that Laura Xstitch is an admin of, she has made an event that is called Pokevember, and you are then supposed to stitch each and every day in November on Pokemon. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a minimum of 1 stitch a day. So that's why I'm working on that. And I have really gotten the urge to start working more on my epic Pokemon and my Lady and the Tiger. Because the oldest full coverage whips I want to get done. So working on Pokemon. So I'm not alone at working on Pokemon today, I can see. And I know Chelsea will join me when she is done with work and have time for stitching. Okay, bye Amanda. Try and have fun while working out. Yeah, Chelsea, I didn't know you actually wasn't in the group. You definitely have to join if you like Pokemon stitching. It was quiet there for a while, but now that Pokevember is on, it has been active, very active again. So that's fun. Yeah, Lady and Tiger, both Pokemon and Lady and the Tiger, I really want to, not Pokemon, I am stitching on that now, but Lady and the Tiger, I really want to get back to and get some good stitching on. I just need to get all my Christmas stitching done first. But I have almost made my plans for 2019. And one of the things with those plans is that I am going to the build-up rotation I started before all the Christmas present stitching. I am going to add much more full coverage, so I will try and focus a lot more on my full coverage and my big pieces, because this year I have done more of the smaller stitching. I also did manage to finish my QS Hugger Ball, which was a big finish, but QS Hugger Ball is still small compared to my Lady and the Tiger and Epic Pokemon. And a lot of the other heids I have. I am going to start some more heids, yes, because I am in the full coverage fanatic groups, and so I'm going to do the by the numbers as I have done this year, and I'm going to be much better about participating in the themed events that happens. And I don't have a full coverage stitching for all the categories, so that means I need to start some more of those, and they need to be started in 2018, because 2019 I will join the No Start 2019 for at least 6 months. And so yeah, I need to start some more. So one of the heids I am going to start is the Super Size Max Color a stitching shelf. I have the fabric ready to go, and I have my master set of bobbins, so I am ready to go as soon as I get the time to do that. And I have with I think I can say at least 75% of all my full coverage project, I have now started with a half stitch, which I talked more about in my 2 latest updates why I am starting with a half stitch. But basically it means the whip is started even though it's not fully started, so I can have it ready to stitch on in 2019. And I think a lot of my full coverage projects will get a lot of love in 2019. So let's see, on the floor. Got the color at once on the floor. Maybe that's a better way to sort things. Just throw it on the floor and everything is like laying all over the place, so it's easy to see the symbol you want. For some reason, when I am doing this live stitch with me, I have the melody that Caroline from Off the Grid, Needle Arts, when she is doing her stitch with me's on Fridays, that the melody she has in the start of her videos is stuck on my brain today. And it started really bad when I started doing my stitch with me. So, do you guys want to do like a tag? Because I found my book where I did write down a lot of the tags, that is. So my thinking was that I can... Hey, Katie! I can ask the question, and if you want to join in and tell me what your preference is, then feel free, and then I will answer the question with what my preference is. Because one of the tags I have that sounds really fun to do is the stitching style tag. So we can get to know each other a little bit better in how we like to stitch. So is that something you guys want to do? Oh, you want to start 2 more heights, Charlotte? That's nice. Yeah, actually one of the ones I have started, it's not a height, but it's a tilt and craft, is actually one where I'm going to remove the background, so I have hand dyed some fabric. Thank you, Katie. I have made these 2 myself, and this one I bought from Etsy. I don't remember the name right now, but yeah, leave me a comment or something later if you want to know where I found it, and I can let you know. That sounds fun. Well, if one person wants to do this stitching style tag, then I am going along with it. So, the first question is, what is your favorite fabric to stitch on? And I think maybe Heather favorite fabric might maybe have changed because she recently tried even weave. I don't know. What do you say, Heather? Is Ada your preferred fabric or 14 count Ada? Nice. This is a 14 count Ada. 28 count even weave. Or Ada. Yeah, nice. Yeah, Ada is a fabric that doesn't get the love it should normally. At least I feel. I feel it sometimes looked down on stitching on Ada, but Ada is amazing fabric. At least if you get the one that is not like super stiff. So my favorite fabric is actually depending on what type of stitching I am doing. I really like Ada when doing full coverage because it's easy to do the pin stitch to start and end your floss. It's just much easier in the fact that the stitches, you don't need to worry about the stitches slipping and so on. The problem with Ada is that the finished piece usually gets really big, But one of the fabrics I have started to love a lot for stitching full coverage is 18 and 20 count Aida. So it doesn't get too big. But if I can't use Aida, then I will use the easy count. And then I normally actually like 28 count fabric for stitching 1/1 full coverage. And if I am stitching non-full coverage and I am stitching in a hoop or a frame or something like that, then I like linen or even weave, mostly linen. And I really like the higher counts. So if it's not a beaded project, 46 and 56 counts, I love working on those. They're amazing. And XG Design, her fabric is just stiff enough that I can work with it in hand, so I love those. And I always have an Aida that is not on a hoop or a frame because I like to stitch in hand also. But most of the linen and even weaves I cannot stitch in hand because the stitches will not look nice. No, I have actually not tried the 22 count hardanger. That is one of the fabrics I have not tried. But your stitches can slip on hardanger, can't it? Or because I have always believed hardanger is a kind of even weave. But there is a big chance that I am wrong about that. So hey, Carrie. Oh, it's fine. No worries. I'm still here. So, when I'm stitching, I use a ruler to, not stitching, when I'm measuring or cutting floss, I'm using a ruler. And I, of course, when trying to show you, it's over my stitching. So, just put it over my ruler like this, and I cut it, and then I know exactly what length it is. And I do that on all my bobbins, mostly because of the fact that when starting to do blended projects, it's nice to have the same lengths on 2 different bobbins because you then can just take one of each and stitch with them and they will be the same length. So if you want to know the lazy way, I am dividing up the floss into strands. So with my epic Pokemon, I am stitching with 3 strands, so it's half the strand or length of floss. So I am actually just dividing, and then I just turn and take a finger in the middle, going down, while keep turning. harder to do this on camera than it is in real life. And there, I have divided both my lengths in half without having to pull 1-in-1 floss. Yeah, Charlotte, a bigger head is more manageable on a higher count. So, Shadow, thank you. This is Epic Pokemon Generation 1. It's a cross-stitch pattern. That was a free pattern you could find. I'm not sure if you still can find it. Because it's from Sprite Stitch. But I think you still can find it. Good for you, Katie. That's actually how I always separated my floss before I found floss tube. Still free, thank you. So you can still find this pattern and stitch for yourself. So, let me see. Next question in the stitching style tag. Do you like to stitch on a hoop or a frame? Yes, Chelsea, I have thought about doing the other generations or the all gen. Problem with the all gen is the fact that that is not the all gen anymore. Because there have come other generations out after the release of the all gen. So I've been thinking about it, but I'm not sure if I want to do it. But it would be cool to have it. Because I think it's like the first 5 generations in the all gen, if I'm correct. Frame, hoop. I can say that for my bigger project like this, I really like frames. And I actually, this is a Q-snap, but I actually love like other frames even better. But when doing smaller projects or projects where I don't bother to have a 3-inch border, I actually like to use a hoop. So yeah, that's my preference. Next up, do you like to stitch on a stand or in hand? I think I already has answered that question, like at least halfway. Yeah, Q-snaps are great, or actually pretty great stitching on. This is 11 by 17-inch Q-snaps, and I like when they are this size when stitching bigger projects. And then it's really nice to have a stand to hold it for you. So I'm not so fond of stitching in hand when doing Q-snaps, but if I'm doing a hoop or actually stitching in hand, then I prefer stitching in hand. Yeah. And I have to say, one of the best thing about stitching on a stand is the fact that I can use the two-handed method. So I have my dominant hand underneath the fabric and my other hand on top. So I can stitch without having to move my hands from the top to the bottom of the frame. Next question is a fun one. What is your favorite stitching time? So what time is your favorite stitching time? Yes, like the time when you stitch. What time of the day do you like to stitch? Oh, nice answer, Chelsea. Morning and evenings bundle up with coffee. I don't drink coffee, but still, it sounds lovely. Let me see. So, yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm on track. So, Charlotte, right after morning coffee. Also, evening when it's dark and everyone else is in bed. Yeah, evenings, Katie. Nice. So I actually prefer stitching evenings, almost night. I am a terrible night person. I always have been. And so I have really big problems not going to bed when I should. So I also stitch a lot in the daytime if I am too ill to do housework, but not too ill to just be in bed all day. So yeah. So evening, night times, that is when my head usually works the best. As I said, I am a night person, always have been. So that is when I love to stitch. After Leo is in bed, Leo is my son, when he is in bed at usually around 7 p.m. So when I have put him to bed, done the last things that I need to do, and sit down to stitch, then I can sit for hours and hours and stitch the whole night if it wasn't for the fact that I need to actually have an alarm on to tell me that you need to go to bed. So, evenings for Carrie too. I think a lot of us like evenings. Just eating a chocolate bar. Oh, needed some more sugar. So, the next one. Do you like to use printed paper or a digital pattern when stitching? Yeah, if come on over, Katie, and you can have as much chocolate bar as I have in the house. Oh, birthday chocolate. Paper pattern. Paper. So, I feel on all these questions, I am always like, I will take both, thank you. Paper patterns, but love to laminate. Oh, that's nice. I haven't actually thought about that. Prefer paper. So I actually prefer both. I like both paper and digital. Who would know that I can settle for one? Absolutely. I still have a love for paper pattern and I use it a lot. But when stitching full coverage and the way I stitch, there is so many good apps I can use while stitching on my iPad that I actually prefer digital. But I wouldn't prefer it if it hadn't been for the fact that my husband bought me last Christmas iPad for me, so I actually could stitch digital. Because I have a hard time getting paper copies. I don't have a way for printing them out myself, and there aren't, like, Staples in Norway doesn't print out for you, as I know they do some places in the US. But I love paper pattern in the fact that I don't need to think about that I need to have battery on my iPad, and that it's easy to take with you if you're traveling. So I really like paper, and especially small project. I love paper. I love having a working copy of paper that I can just mark off as much as I want. But with full coverage, especially heids and when it's a lot of confetti, I like doing digital patterns because I use Goodreader, and that has a really nice function when you can zoom in and just see the part you want to see on the pattern. It's easy to mark off what you have done and so on. And actually, here the other day, I tested out scanning in my Mirabilia pattern to my iPad as a PDF. So going forward, there is a big chance that I will use that digitally because I don't want to mark the Mirabilia chart unless I have a paper copy. And with using GoodNotes, I can still highlight on GoodNotes, even though it's not like a real PDF. Like some PDFs Goodreader won't read because it's not made in a professional way. And I also have easy PDF both on my phone and iPad. So if I need to search a symbol, which it's not often I use it, but I have it. I got that before I got my Goodreader. So I have my easy PDF to, as I said, search symbols. But I don't like easy PDF to stitch with just because of the way I am stitching. So again, I love both. So let's see. Next question. Are you a floss licker? Yep. That one I already have spoiled today. I am not, as you can see. And I don't use a threader, and I don't lick. So on that one, I actually am not doing anything. Because when I have write down the questions, I think I have it like partially written down. So I think the question is are you a floss licker or are you a needle threader? So just need to think. So I'm not doing any of the ones. But I don't mind the ones licking their floss. It doesn't bother me, so be a floss licker all you want. For me, it just takes longer time than the way I thread my needle, so I do it the way that is the fastest for me. As simple as that. So Ooh, next question. Do you hoard or do you buy supplies as needed? As needed, unless it's on sale. Well, that's a good answer. I can spoil that I am a hoarder with a good excuse to be a hoarder, but I still think I would be a hoarder if I had the possibility to buy as needed. But as you all know, DMC floss is like super expensive in Norway. It cost me almost $3 for one skein. Yes, I hate sale. Yes, always hoard when I hate sale is on. So the DMC floss is really expensive in Norway. So I was so lucky that I early on found a floss fairy. So she has been buying me some floss. But I also found buyer online on eBay that sells floss in bags of 100. So I have bought a lot of floss from him in bulks. So I have like a document on my computer where I have written down the flosses that I am missing if I'm going to do all like my heights and stuff. I soon need to update that because it easily I'm not good at updating it, just say that, and there has been bought a lot of patterns the last half year. So I actually buy in bulk floss, and I always I have the X Stitchers app, and I always make sure to have at least one or two of each floss extra laying upstairs in my stash. I only put in what I have in my stash on the X Stitch app, so every color I have in my master set box that I use actively is not on that app. And so I always make sure I have at least one or two of each. And when I see there is a lot of one color of this and this and this left, then I will go and buy another pack of 100 flosses from eBay and fill up what I need. But also my floss fairy, she is working on getting me cones of DMC for the ones I need a bunch of. So that will be nice. So I'm a hoarder. Yeah. Sucker for sales. You and me, Carrie. I'm a sucker for sales. So, and fabric and such isn't easy to come by here in Norway, so I will also hoard fabric. And Etsy has made it way too easy to just buy a pattern here and there that doesn't cost very much. So I think I am also hoarding patterns. So, a hoarder. Do you want to hear a secret, Carrie, about cones of DMC? But yeah, cones of DMC is a good investment. So I have a cone of DMC. This is the smaller ones you can get because I couldn't find a place where I got the bigger one. So I actually bought 2 of these, which I use on my big full coverage projects, like my Disney sal. I have from Hade, I have the QS Alice series from Hannah Lynn, like the QS Alice, QS White Rabbit, etc. And they need a bunch of black. So all those projects, I use a cone. So I have 2 of these. And when I finally found on Etsy a place I could buy the big cone of DMC, Black 310, I also bought that one and have upstairs. So I think I'm set for life on my black. And in all honesty, I also have like, I think I counted last time I had 35 skeins of 310. Because always when I have to fill up the bunch of hundreds with black with floss, and if I'm missing like 2 or 3 skeins to get 100, I always before bought 310. Or yeah, 310. And then I moved over to B 5200. So I'm starting to get a lot of B 5200 also. So yeah, that is a lot of black. So if you run out of black DMC carry, you can just swim over the pond and you can get one from me. So yeah, I think in a total I managed to count that I have over, like if you take the cones and divide it by the length of the cone in total and divide it by the length of a skein of floss, I ended up with over 150 skeins of 310. So I'm set for life on 310, I think. Maybe not. With all these full coverage projects, I might actually have not enough. You never know. So but I have to leave you guys because my phone is running out of power. And I don't have a long enough charger to actually charge my phone. I need to remember that next time to get an extender from the outlet to the charger so I can charge while filming. So, but I have been on here for 1.5 hours, so I think I can say I have done a decent amount of progress. So take care, everyone, and I will be back on. I will most likely film on Friday a FlossTube that will be up on Friday or Saturday, FlossTube updates. And next Tuesday I will be back about the same time. And I hope you enjoyed the visit. I really enjoyed having you all here. Thank you so much for joining me and joining along on the tags. It was fun. So I will see you next time. Goodbye.